What's up, guys? This is Matt with Avoda Talk, or at the real Matt Walton, depending on how you found me. And I am really excited about today because I'm talking about something that is going on right here, right now within my business. And so it's really fresh on my mind. It has to do with marketing and sales and KPIs, getting all of that dialed in. So very excited about that. But first, man, I haven't done a stand-up podcast in a couple of weeks. I know last week I had Paul Mark Goulet on that was just released. So if you have not checked that out, would encourage you guys to go look at that and like, share, download, save this YouTube video and also our podcast as well. And just so y'all know, my goal here is to provide as much value minute by minute so that when you're watching this, there's no time that is wasted because I know how much time is valuable. I know the value of each one of your time, and I am very grateful that y'all tune in. Lately, my life, man, God has been doing some incredible things with me and my family and my business as well. Been peeling back the layers on a number of things as I've pivoted my prayers and like, okay, God, you know how to solve this. Teach me how and show me how to do A, B, and C. And God's been so good to answer that in a very vivid and clear way. So this is why I always talk about kingdom business, because when you partner up with God, that is the best partner that you could possibly ever have. So I root every single thing in Scripture, and I'm sure there's a lot of scriptures that I could find that I could probably twist to fit what I'm talking about here, and I just don't want to do that. God has put a scripture that really has everything yet nothing to do with what we're talking about today, and it's John 8:36, and that's, so if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. And so that just translates to business and everything that we are talking about on this podcast. Because when you partner with God and whenever you rely on God for every single thing, you literally can go through some of the most trials and the most difficult times that you have ever gone through, comforted by the Holy Spirit and knowing that you are in His will and He is so faithful to honor every promise that is found in His Word. And so partner with God and invite Him into your business, make Him the owner, make Him the CEO, and quit getting in this race of like, okay, God, I'm doing this, now here, what do you think? But ask God to go before you and ask God what He thinks about what you're doing and what He wants you to do, and for Him to show you exactly what you need to do. And God will start to honor those prayers, and immediately, if it's like how God has honored that in my life, and I have clear instruction as to what is next. Same thing, if y'all have listened to my stuff, you've heard me talk about like all of my systems and processes. That was all from the Lord. God had put thoughts and visions in my mind about doing exactly what I do in my shop right now. So today is marketing, sales, KPIs, how to get some of these things dialed in. I hope that this adds a ton of value to you. I'm going to talk about a lot of stuff. So I don't want you to miss any bit of this, because this whole entire thing is going to be full of different KPIs to track, different formulas that you run in order to figure out what's next for your business. And it's important to track certain things within your business because that's the only way that you can know the game plan for what's next. So outside of that, I've been doing a pickleball league and with founders, owners, CEOs, and it's really awesome, man, the connections that God's bringing into my life. And so been dialing in my exercise, been dialing in or continuing to eat the way that I've been eating. And now I'm trying to put on a little bit of weight, just muscle as I exercise more, and really dialing in my running and getting at least 2 miles in. That's a big goal of mine on a daily basis. I'm not quite hitting that because I'm running for a certain time rather than running for a distance right now. And I'm trying to get my time down so that I can run the 2 miles within the allotted time that I've given. So these are things that I'm working on, man, and doing just more activities, going on post-dinner walks with my family, going on walks after I run in the morning time, and doing body weight exercises as well, as I really move into treat my body as the temple of God. So, man, without any more time spent on that, I want to jump right into what we're talking about. So when we get into just your marketing, sales, KPIs, and the strategy around how you're generating business. That's what we're going to get into. And I had to ask myself a question. So this came up recently where I'm like, okay, what is the goal? Like, what is the actual goal of the number of units that I am trying to move? And so the goal for me is 40 units. And so when I determine, that goal right there, I ask myself another question of like, okay, why have I yet to hit that goal? It's been almost 3 years and I have yet to hit my 40 unit mark. And I'm just asking the Lord, okay, God, I know you know exactly how to do this, so show me how to do this. Then whenever you have that, it's kind of figuring out what is the vision around that. So obviously the vision is I need to sell 40 units, and why I need to sell 40 units or how I'm going to sell 40 units is A, B, and C. And the only way that you can really have a solid game plan is by looking at previous KPI data that you have that will help you develop your strategy. When we talk about, first figuring out your goal, and then having KPIs that you are already tracking or putting KPIs in place that you will be tracking, those are two of the most important first things that you can do. The next thing is while you're strategizing, you're gonna have to like think through the different levels of growth. So for me, it's like, okay, I need to sell 40 units, and in order to do that, I need X amount of people, I need X amount of space. So when I'm going through that, I'm thinking of the bottlenecks that could come up, and then if there is a bottleneck that could stop that from happening, I'm putting that on my game plan so that when I get to certain thresholds, I am already implementing and moving forward with the removal of that bottleneck. So like for me, I have 23,000 square foot of space. Not all of that space is geared towards what we're talking about today, my pool business. Some of it's geared towards training facilities and some other products that we're manufacturing here. But so let's just say I have about 13,000 square foot of space. I can crank out 40 units, and I believe that I can do 40 to 60 units within that space. So, okay, thought of the bottleneck, and I don't believe that I'm gonna have a problem with the current space that I have. So next is people. I have 3 guys that are working specifically on the pool side of things, and I believe that I can get 40 to 60 pools with those 3 guys. So I think through these bottlenecks. There's other bottlenecks that you think through, and I know those will look different for you. So just think through, develop your strategy of how you're going to push through those, and then when you meet certain marks, start to implement the game plan to push through and to alleviate those bottlenecks. One of the most important things if you do not have KPI is, like for me, it's just developing a handful of them, and saying, okay, I want to track these 5 things. And then when you start tracking those 5 things, like it's almost like you just, like other KPIs start popping up that you need to track within those main KPIs. So what I mean by that is like there's, conversion rate. And so when I'm looking at lead to sale conversion rate, I'm not just tracking my lead to sale conversion rate. I'm tracking lead to quality appointment to sale, and then overall lead to sale conversion rates. And I have different numbers that I'm trying to hit within all of that. One of the most important things as you're like dialing in your marketing and sales is if you don't have a solid sales process down, and I'm not talking perfect because you'll change it as you go, but if you don't have a solid sales process down, then getting more leads is not the answer. So many times, and I am so guilty of this, we can think, well, if I just had more leads, we would convert more. And maybe that would be true if you have some things dialed in on your sales process, how you nurture these leads, follow up with these leads, your rehash. Maybe you do some retargeting through your website. If they didn't convert to a lead, there's so many things within that you need to be considerate of. And I'll get into that as we go. I'll give you an overall view of my sales process, but that has to be dialed in because you can spend X amount of dollars on ads, SEO, and other channels for marketing, and wake up 6 months, a year down the road and realize that it's not giving you the return that you would like. And then you've wasted a lot of that money, especially if you're not dialing in a number of things with your KPIs and sales process along the way. So don't fall into that trap of I need more leads, so I'm going to spend X amount of dollars to get more leads whenever everything else is in shambles. One of the most important things that I have learned through all of this is that right there. Is my sales process is number one. If I'm not getting the conversion rate that I would like to get, then maybe the best option is not to go in and dial in or put in more money to ads, but rather the best option is to go in and to develop that sales process first. So once you figure out, that kind of goes through the first section of your goals. You develop your KPIs, or you review past KPIs, and you're looking at the whole process, the whole client experience, from interest to actually going through your funnel, becoming a lead, from a lead to an appointment, from an appointment to a sale, and everything in between there. You're dialing that in and literally writing that out so that you and your team understands how they're going to be implementing this on a day-to-day basis. So next for me, what I do is I develop my cost. So like now I'm looking to put more money into ads and more money into that side of things. And so for me, it's looking at and saying, okay, like these are some real numbers. It's, for 2024, I had a 1.72 conversion rate. And when you look at high ticket sales, so my product is a high ticket sale. My average cost from 2024 was $49,364. So when I'm looking at that, that's a very high end product. So my conversion rates, depending on where you're looking and where you're studying these things online, you're going to see 0.5% up to about 3%. And believe me, it doesn't mean you can't get past that. But that's what I am learning through the high ticket sales industry, is about 0.5% up to 3%. And some places say 0.5% up to 1.5% is a solid conversion rate. For me, I look at it and I'm like, okay, well, let's figure out how we can go to 3, then 3.5, then 4, then 4.5, then 5, and let's just keep, increasing our conversion rate, obviously. So when I look at that and I look at my past conversion rate, my 2024 conversion rate was 1.72%. So I'm either in the middle of the road or on the high side, depending on where you study this stuff at. And in order to get to my 40 unit mark that I'm trying to move and manufacture this year in 2025, I need to generate 2,350 leads. And out of that, that equates to about 196 leads a month. And I know right now that my cost per lead is about $38.23. And then that equates to about $7,500 in ad spend that I am going to have to expense on SEO and the Google Ads side of things. And those are the only two channels that I'm talking about right now. There's many others, but those are the only two. And so based off of my real-time data, then I should be able to move over 40 units at that point, especially as I have my sales process and all of that dialed in. Next thing, now that you understand, okay, here's my goals, here's my past KPIs, here's how we can get to my goal, here's the cost associated with getting to my goal, we strategize over how exactly we're gonna get there. So it's like this: if I know, if I sell X amount, I budgeted X amount for ad spend. So, there's a lot of numbers that are out there that say between 5% and 20% on ad spend. And so, which that for me would equate to about that $7,500 mark. In between $5,000 and $10,000 is about that 10% mark. And that's increasing month after month, or at least the goal is for that to increase month after month. Now, I'm not saying necessarily that your ad spend needs to increase until you start looking at certain numbers, and then your numbers tell you when it's time to increase that ad spend. Now, and also if you're trying to take over a market or trying to break into a new market, you may spend a lot more. I've seen 35%. I know guys that are spending 35% that are getting into new markets, and in order to break into that new market, they have to, obviously spend more on ads in order to do just that. So for me, I in this section where I'm strategizing, it's again looking at all of my data, figuring out the best channels to then start, investing into. And right now, for me, number one is is SEO, and number two is Google Ads. SEO has the highest conversion rate for me. and Google Ads would be second on that list. There's a bunch of different ways that you can generate leads, but there's KPIs to track for all of these. So when we look at ads, SEO, website, funnel, social media, all of those are going to have their own KPIs that you're looking at, and it's going to tell you exactly what you need to do going forward, all the way from like social media. You know, I may have an idea on social media of a video that I would like to do, and when I look at the numbers of like watch time and some other data that we're looking at, that may not be the best video to make. And so maybe a video that doesn't make any sense to me are the better videos to make, because there's more engagement, more likes, more shares, more watch time on those videos, which then plays into the algorithm. So when you strategized, now it's time to really, again, I'm going to mention this over and over and over again, but make sure that your sales process is down, and just understand that you're going to have to dial this in as you go. I'm always looking through my sales process and looking at data that I'm tracking to know what I need to continue doing and what I need to stop doing. If you do not have that dialed in, then I would discourage you from going in and expensing money on ads to increase your leads, because you'll find yourself not getting quality leads and having to weed through, out of 100 leads, 97, 98, 99 of them just to get something converted. And then if you have your sales process down, you may be able to convert, especially high ticket, 3, 4, 5 of those out of 100 or out of 150. But understand this, when you start getting a bunch of leads that come in, you're gonna hear no after no after no. And as long as you understand that, and if you have some thick skin and can handle those no's, which you need to have, especially whenever you're in sales, then keep rocking and rolling and keep looking at that data, because it'll tell you what to do next. I'm gonna go through just some different numbers here. So conversion rates for me, when I'm looking at lead to quality appointment, so lead to quality appointment would be 10 to 20%. That's what I'm trying to get. I had 15.22% in March. With the amount of leads that I got in and how many of those converted to quality appointments. What I'm trying to do with that to turn a quality appointment to a sale is in between 20 and 30%. And then overall, I have a 0.5 on the very low side conversion rate overall. 0.5% on the low side, 3% on the high side. And then again, I'm trying to go 4, 5, 6, 7, trying to get that increased all the way up to 8 and beyond. That way, then my cost per lead, cost per acquisition, a number of other costs go down. You need to know your average ticket. You need to understand exactly what amount you want to expend on ad spend in marketing. And again, the general rule of thumb is going to be 5% to 20%. And you may not be able to do that, or you may be very nervous to do that. But it's important to understand that the importance of expensing that and investing that, but making sure that you're investing that wisely, or else that's going to be money down the drain. The next thing is we track, ROAS, so that's return on ad spend. That's just ad revenue divided by ad spend times 100. That gets you kind of your ratio. And man, I'm going for a 12, 14, 15 to 1 ratio. Right now, I have, I was doing some numbers yesterday, and just over the last 6 months, I have a 15 to 1 ratio. I didn't do my lifetime ratio, but I have about a 15 to 1 ratio over the last 6 months. And so that's actually really good. That's where I would really like to be as I'm looking to expense more on these different channels to generate more leads. Understand your cost per lead and then your cost per acquisition. Your cost per acquisition is just ad spend divided by your number of clients that you've acquired. That equals your cost per acquisition. Those things are all those KPIs are very important to me, and I track, again, KPIs within those KPIs. So just a note on that, the only way that you should be developing your strategies after your initial strategy is by looking at the data. The data is going to tell you literally every single thing that you need to know. Now, it's time to implement. So this is probably the most challenging thing for some people out there, is to implement. We like to get that analysis paralysis. So make sure that if you're outsourcing this, that you have clear expectations with deadlines and you're following up on that. If you're doing it in-house, then you may need to block this out. If you're the one that's personally doing it, you may need to block out time for that on a daily basis, or check in on a daily basis with the one that is doing these things. For me right now, how this looks is I've pooled my ad spend. This is about 2 weeks ago now, to double down on my SEO. Now I'm buying backlinks for my website and doing a number of other things. So the budget that was being expensed for Google Ads is now going to SEO. And then I'm developing, as I've analyzed all of this data, here in the next 2 weeks, we'll be rolling out more ad spend through Google Ads alone. And we'll eventually get into like Facebook and Instagram and different channels like that. But for right now, I'm focused on the first thing is SEO, then going back to Google Ads, looking at the data that we've been talking about today. I'm developing my strategy, excuse me, and of exactly what needs to be expensed for the goal that we're pursuing. And then we're going to be rocking and rolling on that. So I have proper expectations. I mean, I'm very optimistic, so I expect for this to be a very high return on an investment. But I also understand that there may be some skewed data that happens within there, some different data than what I've previously been looking at that may pivot our approach as we analyze these things on a day-to-day and week-to-week, month-to-month basis. So develop that master game plan of exactly what you want to do and start implementing that. Again, make sure your sales process dial in. Look at your marketing, your funnels, follow-ups, lead generation, nurtures, KPIs. These are all things that kind of are within that basket as you're developing your marketing strategy. What I do is just a quick overview of my sales process is I have a 2-part sales process. So whenever a lead comes in, they'll go through, they'll visit my website. They will, after they scroll around, I have my average visitor is on there for about 30 seconds. They're clicking on, which tells me some things right there as I'm changing some things to kind of increase engagement on there, but they're clicking on my funnel or the form. That's funneling them through, setting proper expectations. Then they have the ability to, then they receive emails and texts from us and to set up appointments, or they receive a calendar invite. Or if we don't hear from them after reaching out to them through those channels, then we will reach out to them and see if we can set up a discovery call. From that discovery call, we do a quote review call. From that quote review call, we're trying to sign them up right there. But a lot of times, I sell a high ticket item and my average turnover time is about 4 months. So it takes some time to sell these things. So that's the reason why follow-up, developing those relationships is critical. And not going in and your job there is to go in and develop these relationships and just be very personable. And if you're in a high ticket market, what I want to do is and this goes for every market, but I want to develop my problem list, solutions to those problems, and then offers that I can offer to my clients, or I'm doing that on the discovery and quote review calls. I'm figuring out some problems that they're facing, how I can develop an offer to solve some of those problems if and when that applies, because a lot of times they're just looking for my product as a luxury cool item to add to their family. And you're going in and you're understanding the problems that the majority of people face, or at least think that they're going to face. You have the solutions already written out. So when you get on that quote review call, you are creating a conversation that solves every issue that could have popped up. So super important there, and to continue to pay attention to what people are saying so that you can dial these things in. But once they go through that process right there, we do Google Ads, and we'll be doing Google Ads again here soon. Did Google Ads, for the last 6 months. SEO, follow-up, social media, and believe it or not, a lot of social media leads that come in we're not targeting anybody, but they're very high quality leads. So just quickly, I want to give y'all some ideas to generate more interest. And text and email campaign. So emailing and texting your current list with maybe a new offer, maybe a follow-up, or with a new product that was released, or maybe a cool video, and just using text and email in a number of different ways to stay on top of them and stay front of mind. The next thing is running promotions, and you can release those through text or email campaigns. Nurtures, again, this is email primarily for me, but this can be done on text as well. And you're split testing like headlines, bodies to text message and emails to see which one generates the most response so that you can develop the game plan for your next campaign that you release. And also the times and days, all of that is super important. And then phone calls, using your existing list and or cold calling people that fit your avatar, that fit your ideal client. These are super important ways that you can generate more interest. And when you're, again, I said this earlier, but when you're in a new market and trying to figure this out, because that's like where I'm at, is I'm in a new market. It's been around I'm in an old market, so I'm in the swimming pool market, but I'm in a pre-manufactured product, and specifically a container pool. A pool that is fabricated from a container, fiberglass shell put in it, insulation. So that's only been around for about 8 years now. And so it's somewhat of a fresh market. There was like one powerhouse in it that we're coming for. And the strategy that I detailed out here is one of the ways that we're doing that. And I think it's super important to set these expectations that when you get into this, plan to spend a lot of money. It gets expensive to try things, to fail, to learn. But know that every single time, as long as you're not being careless and you're paying attention to these things, they're all stepping stones towards your success. So plan to spend a lot of money. I hope you don't have to. I hope that you figure it out on the first campaign that goes out. But more than likely, you're going to have to fall down and learn exactly what to do, and then pay attention to what the market's telling you. For me, it was recently, it was looking at my cost and understanding that with everything that's changing within our world, my products at the price point where it was being offered was starting to be priced out of certain markets. And I have a desire and a goal to be in every single person's backyard with my pools. And so I need to make sure that I'm listening to what people are saying, that I understand different markets, and I'm capturing that with all the offers that I'm presenting to my clients. And then just know, like, is your product good? Release surveys, ask questions, because maybe people are telling you that, hey, the product is not good, or maybe the price is not good, your marketing's not good, something like that, and that will help you develop your game plan. Think of, I said this earlier, but want to refresh this. Think of every single bottleneck as you're strategizing. This is going to help you be out in front of bottlenecks and potential hazards that could trip you up from your growth. This is super important. Delegate, delegate, delegate. And when you have leader meetings, there are times when you're going to have operational leader meetings, and then there's times for me whenever I have strategy leader meetings. That usually happens quarterly, but it could happen monthly too. I do monthly leadership meetings, and we strategize in those meetings. And my goal is to bring the right people on that can have the strategy, understand my vision, develop a strategy around that, and then implement it as well. That way I'm not having to strategize over each and every department, and I can focus on the high level, what I do best, while they focus on their high level and what they do best. That's a huge goal for me. Actually, that's what I'm doing right now. Next is, like, these are things that I ask myself, but what's next in the growth process? What's the goal down the road? Where are you headed? For me, it's buying more businesses, specifically in my space. Find the right people, the right seat, get experts in people's fields, right? So like get experts in operations and marketing, and that will just continue to go down the list. Delegate, 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 but don't delegate improperly and find out that you advocated. The best rule of thumb with that is if you step away and it doesn't get any better, then you've advocated and have not delegated. Recruit, do not hire. Recruit, recruit, recruit. This really happens, especially in my world, from top-down positions, not necessarily from bottom-up positions. I've got to pretty often hire from bottom-up positions. I can still recruit, but I'm looking for a specialty position, so I need to hire for that and develop your training program, develop your mission, vision, value, and principles, and make sure that they align with those things. Again, top-down hiring is huge, and what I've learned is I don't hire for skill anymore. I hire if we align on our values. We don't have to see eye to eye on everything. Like, I'm not saying that you have to see eye to eye on everything that I see, that I look at. But we do need to see eye to eye and have similar values on a lot of things. Develop your SOPs, develop your training programs. What I've done is develop a discipleship program as well. It's kind of, I'm not a big fan of performance improvement plans, but sometimes those things can be very valuable. So like a discipleship program is what I call it. And it really has our guys in mind. That's the most important thing, is my guys. And when it comes to their success, like, I am extremely invested into their success, because again, they are the most important thing to me and to my business. The next thing is I just released it's called Dream Chaser Accountability Program, DCAP, and this walks alongside of our guys, figures out their goals and helps hold them accountable. They get tied to a leader within my business, and then we walk alongside them and help them accomplish their goals. So, man, I hope that y'all got a lot out of that. This is, I think, one of the most important things within all of our businesses, is marketing, and making sure that you have your marketing and sales and you're tracking the proper things. So I know there's a lot of you that will be ahead of where this is at, but there's also a lot of you that need this information, that if I had this information 3 years ago, I'd be a whole lot further along. But I'm grateful that I didn't, because now I understand it in a capacity that I never would have understood it before. And I want to encourage you guys to keep going and rely on the Lord, like press into God like never before. If you need to take a day, take a moment to step away and to reroot yourself within the scripture and prayer, whatever it is, do that, because your health is the most important thing to the growth of your business. You can do all these things, but if you're deteriorating as a man or a woman, then it's in vain, and for what? And again, if you're doing things just for yourself and you're trying to get better just for yourself, I want to encourage you to think about, your family, think about your relationship with the Lord, and that's where, for me, that's where I root my power, is number one, in scripture. And then I look at my little girl and my wife and think of the future and the vision, and think of scriptures that talk about what we're talking about right now with discipline, and I rock and roll. And so just want to encourage you all to do that. Become an absolute savage, become an animal within your industry, become the expert, but know that you can't be the expert on everything. So you need to bring in the experts and collaborate and partner with them. So like, share, subscribe, comment, download if you enjoyed this episode, and we'll talk to you next week.